Alert. 4 years later, the man who accused her of theft discovers the most painful truth. Attention. If you love stories of second chances, honor, and family redemption, hit that big like button and subscribe to the channel right now so you don't miss our next story. The shout from Alexander "Alex" Vance ripped through the silence of his luxury penthouse in the Manhattan financial district, a sound more lethal than any financial collapse. "Get out! You stole from me, Evie, and you're a traitor!" That night, under the rain lashing the city, he threw her onto the street with the cold conviction of a businessman who does not forgive mistakes. What Alexander didn't know was that, in the small travel bag Evelyn "Evie" Sterling dragged, she wasn't just carrying clothes. She was carrying 2 lives yet to meet the world. 4 years later, Destiny would collect a debt that isn't paid with money, but with the vision of 2 small blonde girls, with his exact blue eyes standing next to the woman he destroyed. The accusation in the Manhattan penthouse, the city of New York, seen from Alexander Vance's office, vibrated with light and ambition. But inside the glass tower housing his global tech real estate empire, everything felt sharp, cold, and controlled. Alexander, 38, a self-made man feared in circles of power, stood by the window. Emotion to him was inefficient. Trust, a luxury. And mistakes, unforgivable. The email arrived just before 7 p.m., marked urgent. Discrepancies in financial reports. The preliminary investigation pointed to someone in his personal circle. When he clicked the attachment and saw Evelyn Sterling's name highlighted in red, he felt a chill of rage. His jaw tightened. Without pausing to consider alternatives, he dialed her number. Evie arrived at his penthouse on 5th Avenue and found the door already open. She entered cautiously, her heels softly echoing against the marble, sensing the tension before she saw him. He stood in the living room, her name already cold in his mouth. "I trusted you," he said without greeting, "and you've been stealing from me." She froze, her brown eyes wide with disbelief. "What are you talking about?" "Don't play the innocent," he snapped. "Accounting records show missing funds, transfers traced back to your access credentials." "Alexander, I don't know what they found, but I didn't take anything. I would never do that." "No," he interrupted. "You weren't just anyone. You lived here, you had access to my life, and you used it." Evie's voice caught. "You think I would betray you like that?" "I think the evidence speaks for itself." She stared at him, devastated. "I thought you knew me better than that," she whispered. "Clearly not," he retorted. She didn't cry. She didn't plead. She simply turned, collected her belongings in a small travel bag, and returned without saying a word. As she walked past him, he didn't move. At the door, she paused. "One day, you'll realize what you've lost." Then she left. The click of the lock was definitive. Alexander told himself he had done the right thing, but something felt off. Something colder and heavier than guilt. Question for the audience: how quickly would you judge someone you love if the evidence seemed irrefutable? Share your answer in the comments. What he didn't know was that Evie hadn't just left with a suitcase that night. She had left carrying 2 lives within her, still small and silent, growing beneath her heart. And when he dared to question what happened, it would already be too late to stop the narrative. The Boston encounter. 4 years later. 4 years had passed. Evie's name never crossed Alexander's lips. He had buried it under achievements, quarterly results, and endless projects. In early spring 2030, Alexander was in Boston for a corporate gala. After 3 hours of rehearsed speeches, he slipped out early and walked alone onto the sidewalk, ready to call his driver. That's when he saw her. Evie was standing under the glare of a streetlight a few feet away, trying to pull a toy out of her bag, while 2 small children clung to each side of her. At first, Alexander froze, thinking the resemblance was playing tricks on him. But it was not a mistake. It was her. And the girls. They looked about 4 years old, identical, small, laughing, clutching stuffed animals. Both had soft blonde curls and large blue eyes. His eyes. He remained motionless. One of the girls, Sophie, looked up and met his gaze for a fraction of a second. She blinked slowly, curious, and then turned back to her mother. Evie straightened up and followed her daughter's gaze. Their eyes met. She didn't gasp. She just looked at him with a calm, unreadable expression, as if she had prepared for this moment. Alexander opened his mouth, but no words came out. Before he could react, Evie gently ushered the girls into a nearby taxi. She didn't rush. She didn't look back. The car door closed with a soft thud, and a moment later, the taxi drove away into the night. Alexander stood paralyzed as people walked past him. He knew, without needing confirmation, that he had just seen his twin daughters for the first time. Pause moment. At this point in the story, do you think Alexander has the right to demand to see the girls, or should he simply respect Evie's decision? Leave me your opinion in the comments. The beginning in Philadelphia. Alexander didn't sleep that night. By morning, he had made a decision. He discreetly hired a private investigator, asking only for an address, something human. In 3 days, he had it. A modest townhouse in a quiet neighborhood of Philadelphia. It was a Tuesday afternoon. He drove a rental car, parked, and spent 20 minutes looking at the small yard, seeing toys scattered on the grass, chalk drawings on the sidewalk. A life. A full, beautiful life that he wasn't a part of. Finally, he got out and walked toward the door. When she opened it, she didn't seem surprised. She looked tired, as if she had known this moment was coming. "Alexander," she said simply. "I need to talk to you," he replied, his voice calm despite his internal tremor. Evie didn't invite him in. She stepped out and gently closed the door behind her, the sound of children's laughter muffled. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "I saw you. At the restaurant. The girl." "They are my daughters," she said firmly. "They are mine too," he said. And she didn't correct him. "Why now?" she asked. "Because I didn't know. If I had known." "You didn't want to know," she interrupted. "You were so quick to believe I was a thief. You didn't even let me speak. I was pregnant when you threw me out, Alexander. I was carrying your daughters, and you didn't even look back." Her words hit him like cold water. "I'm not here to justify what I did," he said after a long pause. "I just want to make things right. Somehow. And what does that look like to you? Money, lawyers, a press release? No, I want to be their father." Evie looked him in the eye. "They don't know you. They've never heard your name. You can't just walk in and claim a title you never earned." "Then let me earn it," he whispered. "Let me start." She didn't answer immediately. "I don't promise you anything, but if you truly want to do this, you start with them, not with me." "I understand. And Alexander," she added, her voice sharper suddenly, "don't do this halfway. If you step in, you stay. I will be there. Come back Saturday. We'll be at the playground at 10 a.m. And she slipped inside, the door closing behind her. Earning the trust, the playground was small. Alexander arrived 10 minutes early, dressed in simple clothes, feeling like an intruder among strollers and sidewalk chalk. At 10 o'clock sharp, he saw them. Evie approached with a slow, even pace, gently holding each girl. They were Sophie and Gabriella. "They still don't know who you are," Evie said, sitting next to him on a bench. "To them, you're just a man off the street, a stranger." "I get it," Alexander said. "I don't expect anything. You'll have to be patient. They're smart, observant, but they don't trust easily." "I was an idiot," he said simply, "and I'm sorry. I want to show them something different now." Sophie walked over, looking at Alexander with serious concentration. He knelt down to her level, not moving too close. "Hello?" he said softly. She didn't answer, just studied him. Do you want help with your sandcastle? She nodded slowly, then turned, making sure he followed her. For the next hour, Alexander sat in the sand, building crooked castles. The girls didn't leave. They handed him shovels. They laughed when he made animal noises. Evie watched from the bench. Occasionally she smiled. When it was time to leave, Gabriella turned and waved at Alexander. It wasn't a big wave, but a small, tentative one, as if saying, "You passed the first test. It's time for the second CTA. If you believe Alexander is on the right path to becoming a good father, leave your opinion and share this video with your friends. Redemption, the truth, and the promise." Over the next few weeks, Alexander showed up regularly, at the park, the library, even on their porch with coloring books. He never came unannounced. He never stayed too long. He let the girls take the lead. Alexander, once a man known only to boardrooms, now spent his afternoons baking cookies and singing off-key lullabies. He was becoming gentle, present. Then came the conversation about legal rights. Evie initiated it. "You have to be on their birth certificates," she said. "I didn't expect you to say that. I'm not doing it for you," she said. "I'm doing it because they'll start asking questions soon. Where were you? Why weren't you there? I want the answer to be honest. I want to be there for all of it, not just the easy parts." She nodded. "Then prove it. Not just in court, every day." That week, they filed the documents. At the hearing, the judge asked if they had anything to add. Evie spoke first. "I'm not here because I trust easily. I'm here because I've seen who he is becoming. And I want my daughters to grow up knowing the version of their father who is here now, not the one who left." Alexander cleared his throat. "I was wrong. I acted without listening. I lost years I can never recover. But I'm here now, and I will be here tomorrow and every day after, because they are mine, and I want to earn the right to be theirs." The judge granted him his paternity rights. That night, Evie allowed him to tuck the girls in. He read them a story. When he finished, Gabriella asked if he would come back tomorrow. "I will," he said softly. "Every tomorrow." Evie stood in the doorway. As he left, she reached out without thinking and brushed his arm. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was the first time she had touched him in 4 years. Do you believe forgiveness is possible when the betrayal has been so profound? Comment below. The document that changed everything. 2 months later, Evie appeared unexpectedly at his office. She carried a folder in her hand. "I found this when I was reviewing some old things," she said quietly. "It's from the night you accused me." Alexander opened the folder. Inside were copies of internal memos, signed records, and an email chain detailing a technical error involving another employee. The truth hit him. Evie hadn't taken anything. The missing funds had been part of a miscommunication and an administrative error that someone else had covered up. "Why didn't you show me this before?" "Because you didn't ask. Because you didn't listen. If I had handed you these papers that night, would it have changed anything?" Alexander closed his mouth. The truth was too bitter. "I saved them," she continued. "Not to prove you wrong, but because a part of me always hoped you would realize it on your own." He sat down, the weight of what he had done settling more deeply than ever. "I was afraid," he said at last. "Afraid of being wrong, of being used. I let that fear destroy everything. I had to build a life from nothing, alone. I was accused of something unforgivable, and no one believed me. I can't fix it," he said, "but I swear I will never doubt you again." She nodded. She turned to leave. At the door, she paused. "The girls are watching us. If we want them to know what love looks like, we have to show them, even if we're still trying to figure it out." That night, Alexander didn't bring a gift to the girls. He brought a handwritten letter for Evie. Not to apologize again, but to tell her the complete truth about his fear, his failure, and how he was ready to become someone worthy of the life he almost lost. The birthday wish that united their lives. The twins' fourth birthday arrived. Alexander had baked an imperfect but proud cake and decorated the house with balloons until his hands ached. The girls, Sophie and Gabriella, ran to hug him first, then Evie. For the first time in 4 years, it felt like a family celebration. After the cake, the girls gathered in a circle. Sophie stood up, holding a piece of paper. "We made a wish," she announced. Gabriella stood beside her and added, "It's very important." Sophie read with the seriousness only a 4-year-old can muster. "We wish that Mommy and Daddy live together in the same house, so we never have to say goodbye again." The yard went silent. Later, Alexander and Evie sat in the kitchen. He held the wish paper in his hand. "I didn't ask them to write that," he said softly. "I know," Evie replied. "It's what they want." "And you?" he asked. She took a deep breath. "I never thought we could come back from what happened. But seeing you with them, seeing you become this man, I think maybe we didn't lose everything. Maybe we just hit the pause button." "I'm not asking for everything," he said. "Just a chance to build what they see in us." Evie stood up and walked to the living room, where the girls were sleeping in their pillow fort. She said over her shoulder, "Then maybe it's time we stopped living in 2 houses." Alexander got up and stood beside her. They looked together at their daughters, the 2 small people who, without knowing it, had taught them to try again. There was no grand kiss, no cinematic moment. Just 2 people, standing, finally ready to share the weight of the past and the promise of what could still be. It was quiet, and it was enough. A worthy ending, the lesson of second chances. The ending of this story is powerful precisely because of its quietness. It doesn't rely on a fairy tale reconciliation. Instead, its weight is earned through emotional growth, humility, and the choice to rebuild what was broken. Alexander Vance's transformation wasn't instantaneous. It was a real, slow process. He doesn't win Evie back with money or excuses, but with his unwavering presence and the willingness to own his past without defending it. Evie Sterling's decision to let him back in is equally brave. She does it not out of weakness, but out of strength. She chooses to forgive, not because she forgot the betrayal, but because she saw the nobility in the man he had become. This story teaches us that people can change, and that love can survive even betrayal, as long as the redemption is genuine and consistent. The twins, Sophie and Gabriella, become the heart and anchor of the story, reminding both adults what it means to love unconditionally. It is a quiet triumph, and those are the ones that last the longest. Thank you for watching this powerful story of redemption. If it moved you, leave a heart emoji in the comments and share this message to inspire others. Until the next time. Chapter 13. The Architecture of a Home Continuation. Warm, uplifting music with a cautious undertone. Welcome back, followers of true wealth. Alex and Evie have made the conscious choice to build their life together in Queens. But turning a promise into permanence is the hardest work of all. Smash that like button if you believe Alex can balance his billions with bedtime stories. Subscribe now and tell us, what daily routine do you think will be the biggest challenge for Alex? Part 1. The Billionaire in the Bedroom. The transition from a solitary Manhattan penthouse to a shared, noisy, and cozy townhouse in Philadelphia was a seismic shift for Alexander Thorne. The man who managed a global empire now faced his greatest logistical challenge: the morning routine of 4-year-old twins. Alex quickly learned that his multi-million-dollar deals were less critical than ensuring Sophie and Gabriella had matching unicorn socks. He found joy in the chaos, waking up to a small foot kicking him in the back, the smell of burnt toast, and the non-negotiable ritual of reading The Littlest Dragon every night. Evie, meanwhile, was testing him, not with resentment, but with shared responsibility. She allowed him to take over the finances, to pay bills, and to use his logistical skills to streamline their schedule. This shared power was a new form of intimacy, far stronger than the superficial passion of their past. However, Alex's struggle wasn't with commitment, it was with scale. He found himself constantly oversolving simple problems. "Evie," Alex said one afternoon, holding his head, "the girls need a place to play outdoors that is safe and private. I'm thinking of purchasing the 2 adjacent properties, demolishing the structures, and commissioning a world-class landscape architect to design a custom playground." Evie, who was stirring spaghetti sauce, looked at him calmly. "Or," she suggested, "we could just go to the public park 2 blocks away and let them play with the neighborhood kids, like normal children." Alex paused, realizing his billionaire mode was still defaulting to extravagance over simplicity. "Right," he sighed, smiling sheepishly. "The park. I'll buy them new swing sets." "No, Alex. You'll teach them how to share the existing swing sets. Your wealth is not a solution here. Your presence is." Part 2. The return of the matriarch. The outside world, however, refused to stay outside. The Manhattan elite reacted to Alex's new life with shock, dismissal, and outright scorn. The greatest pressure came from his mother, Veronica Thorne, a formidable socialite who viewed his move as a descent into madness and a betrayal of the family name. Mrs. Thorne flew from Palm Beach to Philadelphia, demanding an immediate meeting. She arrived at the small townhouse in a limousine, stepping out in full designer armor. "Alexander," Mrs. Thorne whispered dramatically, surveying the cozy, slightly messy living room. "What is this? This is not a home, it's a retreat. You've sold your Fifth Avenue penthouse for this, and these creatures are your priority." Evie, who was serving tea in mismatched mugs, placed one before Mrs. Thorne. "They are your granddaughters, Veronica, and this is their home. They are the children of a waitress you threw out, Alexander. I demand you secure a proper home, hire a full-time staff, and put these girls into a proper school immediately. This is destroying your reputation." Alex stood up, his hand resting on Evie's shoulder. His voice, though quiet, held the steel that made him a titan in the boardroom. "Mother, my reputation is the strongest it has ever been because it is finally built on truth. Evie is my partner, and these girls are my world. If you cannot respect that, you will not be welcome in this house." Mrs. Thorne was speechless. She had faced down hostile takeover bids and international crises, but never the unwavering resolve of her own son defending his family. "You've chosen a life of spaghetti and stick figures over your dynasty, Alexander. You will regret this," she hissed, grabbing her designer bag. "Perhaps," Alex said calmly, "but I will regret it with the people I love." Mrs. Thorne left, defeated, but Evie knew the war was far from over. If you were Evie, would you completely cut off Mrs. Thorne, or would you allow limited contact for the sake of the girls? Tell us in the comments. Part 3. The Vow of the Simple Life. Contort. Evie leaned in and kissed him, a kiss full of the promise of the future. "That is a greater commitment than any wedding vow," Evie whispered. "Then accept it." Alex smiled. "Accept this new life, this simple life, and this imperfect man who loves you." Evie didn't hesitate. "I accept, Alex, but I accept the commitment, not the debt. You did not sacrifice your empire for me. You simply re-anchored it to your true values. Your work will now serve a greater purpose." She looked at her 2 daughters, who were busy trying to fit a shovel into a sandbox bucket. "I need your wealth, Alex, not to spend it, but to protect the children and to build a life of service in this community. I want to use your foundation to create a support center for single mothers in Queens, women who had to build their lives from nothing, just like I did." Alex's eyes shone with pride. "The Thorn Foundation will be your engine, Evie. Run it with the same fierceness you used to protect Lumi." He took her hands, his thumb tracing her knuckles. "Now that the business strategy is settled, there is just one more thing. The girls want a wedding." Evie laughed, a clear, happy sound he hadn't heard in years. "They want a princess dress and a big cake, Alex. Then they shall have it. But the real ceremony," Alex said, pulling out a simple custom-designed platinum band from his jacket, "will be here, in our park, where it all began. Evie, marry me. Not as the socialite Mrs. Thorne, but as the strong, beautiful woman who taught this lost man the way home." Tears streamed down Evie's face. "Yes, Alex, I will marry the Night Builder, the throne of Queens." The wedding was small, held in the newly repaired community center in Queens, paid for by the Thorn Foundation. Evie wore a simple white dress, and Alex wore a suit, but his tie was slightly crooked, just the way Lumi always insisted on fixing it. Sophie and Gabriella were the flower girls, wearing tiny crowns and taking their roles as princesses very seriously. The Manhattan elite were absent. The guests were the mothers from the daycare, the construction workers who helped him fix the roof, the staff from Maria's Hearth, and Elena Ramirez, his lawyer, who served as the maid of honor. The greatest testament to Alex's change was his vows. He didn't promise eternal passion. He promised unwavering presence, radical honesty, and shared accountability for every mistake. 3 years later, the Thorn Empire was rebranded. Its new headquarters in Philadelphia was renowned not just for its renewable energy solutions, but for its philanthropic arm, led by Evie, supporting single mothers' education and job training. Alex looked out the window of their cozy home in Queens, watching Evie and the girls plant sunflowers in their small backyard. Not a custom-designed paradise, but a perfectly messy, happy home. He had achieved true wealth. Not the wealth measured in the value of his stock, but the wealth of a life deeply anchored in purpose. He realized that the greatest power in the world is not control, but vulnerability. The courage to admit you are lost, and the humility to accept the hand that guides you home. His journey from an Iron Man to a Night Builder was a quiet triumph, a testament to the fact that it is never too late to trade a profitable empire for a life of purpose and love. Thank you for following this incredible story of redemption and Chapter 14, The Billionaire's New Job Description. Continuation, light-hearted, family comedy music. Welcome back to the cozy chaos of the Queens household. Alex and Evie are married, and their life is a perfect blend of high-level finance and low-key living. But what happens when the CEO of a global firm gets assigned his most challenging task yet? The neighborhood block party? Smash that like button. If you love seeing billionaires fail at normal life, subscribe now and tell us, what is the funniest fish-out-of-water moment Alex will face? Part 1. The Challenge of the Ordinary. 3 months into their marriage, Alex was thriving in his new reality. He expertly managed the Thorn Foundation, led corporate meetings via video call from his dining room, often with a twin climbing on his chair, and was fiercely dedicated to his family. His biggest challenge, however, was his utter lack of familiarity with normal life. The neighborhood association of their Philadelphia suburb decided to host a massive summer block party. Evie, being the local favorite, was immediately put in charge of coordination. She assigned Alex his task: procure and manage the logistics for the main event tent, seating, and food service equipment. Alex, who was accustomed to chartering private jets for corporate retreats, approached the task with terrifying over-engineering. He attempted to hire an event logistics firm in Manhattan, secure industrial-grade scaffolding, and order catering equipment from a five-star restaurant. Evie caught him before he signed the $40,000 budget proposal. "Alex, honey," Evie said, gently massaging the tension from his shoulders. "This is a block party. We need a tent, not a temporary corporate headquarters. I need you to call Mr. Tony at Tony's Rentals on the corner and ask for his big white tent." Sir. "It costs a whiffy and smells faintly of last year's BBQ. That is the Queen's way." Alex stared at the phone. "Tony's Rentals? But I could charter a plane to bring a better one from Europe." "You could," Evie smiled, "but you won't. Your new job description is community integrator, not global oversolver. Call Tony." Alex, defeated, made the call. The negotiation was painful, as Tony didn't use email, only accepted cash, and insisted on discussing his daughter's college applications before accepting the job. Alex closed the deal, feeling strangely satisfied by the low-stakes, human transaction. Part 2. The unexpected vendor, the day of the block party arrived. Alex, wearing a shirt that had not been ironed since their wedding, was sweating as he wrestled with the manual of Tony's rental tent. He was attempting to apply Six Sigma efficiency principles to the plastic poles, much to the amusement of the neighboring fathers. "Thorne, you're treating that tent like it's a structural beam on the Brooklyn Bridge," one neighbor joked. "It is a critical component of the community's social contract," Alex retorted, wiping his brow. Evie watched him, shaking her head and smiling. This struggle was good for him. It was humbling. Then a large catering truck pulled up. A man got out, looking tired but efficient. He was the owner of the local catering company Evie had hired for the main food service. "Isabel?" the man asked, spotting Evie. "It's me, David. We used to work together at Maria's Hearth years ago." Evie smiled warmly. "David, so good to see you. Thank you for handling the food. It smells amazing." Alex, busy battling a stubborn tent pole, paused. He recognized the man. David was the very person Evie had been working with at Maria's Hearth the night they had that devastating confrontation 4 years ago. The kind face, the honest hands. David, recognizing Alex's face from the news, approached cautiously. "Mr. Thorne, it's an honor. You run a huge firm, right?" "I do," Alex said, extending his hand. "And you have a fantastic business here." "I do, thanks to Isabel," David smiled. "She was a big reason I was able to start my own company. She helped me with the first loan application and gave me the courage to leave the restaurant." Alex's throat tightened. David was the other man Evie had worked with, the one who saw her strength long before Alex did. And he was standing here, not as a romantic rival, but as a testament to Evie's unwavering ability to build others up, even when her own life was falling apart. Part 3. The strength of Evie's heart. Meaningful ending. The block party was a huge success. The tent, though slightly crooked, held fast. The food was delicious. Lumi and the twins, Sophie and Gabriella, ran around in a frenzy of joy. That night, after the girls were asleep, Alex and Evie sat on their porch. "David seems like a great guy," Alex commented, his voice thoughtful. "He is," Evie agreed. "He believed in me when I was just a stressed-out waitress, and when you thought I was a thief. He helped me find the strength to build something new." "I was jealous of him for a moment," Alex admitted, resting his head on his hand. "Not romantically, but because he got to see the woman you were, the strong, kind, ambitious woman, when I was too blind and too cowardly to see you." Evie leaned over and took his hand. You didn't see me then, Alex, but you chose to see me now. You chose to leave behind the lies and the glamour to be here, fighting with Tony's tent and worrying about unicorn socks. I wouldn't trade this for all of Manhattan, Alex said, squeezing her hand. I know, Evie smiled. And that's why you keep the tent and the job as community integrator. Because here, Alex, you are not defined by the height of your buildings, but by the depth of your presence. Alex looked at her, his eyes full of love and admiration. His life was permanently rooted in Queens, and it was the richest he had ever known. The legacy. Alex Thorne learned that true partnership is not about finding someone who is perfect, but about trusting the person who saw your goodness when you couldn't see it yourself. His greatest success was not the solar merger, but the simple, complicated, and entirely real life he built with Evie, the woman who was always worth fighting for. Thank you for following this incredible story to its beautiful conclusion. Chapter 15. The Thornes welcome back to the final chapter of the Thorne family saga. Alex has traded the boardroom for the block party, but now his true leadership is tested. Can he apply the Queen's principles to his global company? Smash that like button if you believe purpose-driven business is the future. Subscribe now and tell us, what kind of project should Evie and Alex collaborate on next? Part 1. The Queen's Principles. In the boardroom, Alex returned to his CEO duties with a new perspective, one forged on the shaky ground of Tony's rental tent and the honesty of the Queen's community. His old company, once driven purely by profit, was now being run under the Queen's Principles, a set of ethical and human-centric mandates Alex imposed. He shocked the Manhattan board by mandating that all executive decisions must now consider their community impact first, profit second. He restructured compensation to reward ethical practices over ruthless cost-cutting. His first major corporate act was unexpected. He hired David and other talented, local service industry professionals from Queens, not as cleaners or assistants, but as logistics consultants. You, David, Alex announced in the first meeting, understand efficiency, resource allocation, and customer service better than any MBA I could hire. You managed a busy restaurant kitchen for 10 years. You will teach my executive team how to solve problems with limited resources and human integrity. You are my new head of efficiency. The former Manhattan elite were bewildered, but Alex's vision was clear. He was transforming his empire from a machine of greed into an engine of purpose, grounded in the resilience and common sense of the community that saved him. Part 2. The spaghetti sauce venture. The most organic business opportunity came from Maria's Hearth. The restaurant, a staple of the Queens community, was struggling financially. Its owner, Maria, was considering selling. Evie, devastated by the thought of losing the place that had been her anchor and where Alex and Lumi first met, approached Alex. We can't let Maria sell, Alex. That place is the heart of the community. It's the place where people talk, where they connect, where they feel it, Evie pleaded. Alex, in his new role as community integrator, saw the value immediately. It wasn't about revenue, it was about preserving the root. He didn't buy the restaurant outright. Instead, he and Evie proposed a partnership. The Thorne Foundation would provide capital, strategic marketing, and streamlined logistics to expand Maria's famous, beloved spaghetti sauce into a premium, nationally distributed product. The new venture was called Hearth and Home Goods, managed by Evie and David, focused on simple, high-quality community recipes. The profits went back into supporting local businesses and ensuring Maria's Hearth remained open as a community center. Alex watched as Evie, applying the business sense she used to navigate her life, blossomed into a formidable CEO. She wasn't just managing funds. She was exporting the heart of queens nationwide. Part 3. The final act of the Night Builder. Meaningful ending. Years passed. Sophie and Gabriella were thriving, growing up with the stability of two dedicated parents. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Alex planned no grand gesture. He didn't fly Evie to Paris. Instead, he took her to their local park, the place where he first knelt as a man of control and left as a man of heart. Evie found him sitting on the original bench, looking at the proud plaque he had secretly installed. It wasn't a bronze plaque. It was a simple, wood-carved sign. It read, "The Night Builder's Pledge, built with wood and honesty, by A.T. for the love of Lumi and the trust of Evie." Dedicated to the principle, the best things in life are shared. Alex stood up and kissed her. "I am forever grateful you let me build my life with you, Evie. I found my empire not in Manhattan, but here, on this bench. And I found my wealth not in money, but in the man who keeps his word," Evie replied, taking his hand. The legacy. Alexander Thorne learned that the greatest return on investment is not measured in money, but in the profound, quiet joy of a life lived with purpose, community, and unconditional love. He remained anchored in Queens, a titan whose greatest achievement was simply being a good husband and a great father. Thank you for following this incredible final chapter of the Thorne family.